Have you ever stayed in a motel and felt a strange chill down your spine? That feeling that the walls hold secrets? Well, for Liam and Chloe, that feeling became a terrifying reality. They were a young couple, full of dreams, who poured all their savings into buying the Sunset Valley Motel, a forgotten gem off a quiet highway. They saw potential where others saw decay. They envisioned a retro-chic getaway, a vibrant stop for weary travelers. Their first few weeks were a whirlwind of paint, new furniture, and optimistic planning. The old building was slowly coming back to life under their loving care. Little did they know, the motel's past wasn't just in the faded wallpaper. It was waiting in every single room, ready to play back its darkest moments. Their grand reopening was just a week away. One evening, exhausted but happy, they decided to test the newly installed smart home systems in each room. They started in room 1. Liam tapped his phone, activating the system. Testing. 1, 2, 3, he said into the speaker. Everything seemed perfect. They moved to room 2. Chloe activated the system this time, but instead of silence, a faint, raspy voice filled the room. It was a wheezing sound, followed by a desperate gasp for air, then a final, rattling sigh. Silence. Liam and Chloe stared at each other, their faces pale. What was that? Chloe whispered. Liam, ever the pragmatist, brushed it off. Probably just some old interference in the wiring. This place is ancient. He reset the system, and the room fell quiet again. They tried to laugh it off, blaming their exhaustion, but a seed of unease had been planted. They moved on to room 3, hoping the strange incident was just a one-off glitch. Liam activated the system. This time, the sound was different. It was the frantic, panicked sobs of a young woman. No, please. Please, don't leave me here, the voice cried, its terror echoing off the newly painted walls. The sobbing grew weaker, eventually fading into a heartbreaking whimper. And then, nothing. Just the hum of the mini-fridge. Chloe grabbed Liam's arm, her knuckles white. Liam, that's not interference. That sounded real. The air in the small room felt heavy, suffocating. The excitement of their project was rapidly being replaced by a creeping dread. This was no longer about faulty wiring. Something was deeply wrong with the Sunset Valley Motel. They stood frozen for a moment before Liam, trying to stay in control, suggested they check the motel's old records. There has to be a logical explanation, he insisted, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. They found a dusty ledger in the back office, filled with faded, spidery handwriting. As they turned the brittle pages, a horrifying pattern began to emerge. They cross-referenced the rooms with the dates. Room 2. The record showed a guest, an elderly man, had passed away from a severe asthma attack years ago. Room 3. A young woman, heartbroken after a breakup, had been found in that very room. A chill crawled up their spines as they flipped through more pages. Room 4. A heart attack. Room 5. An accidental overdose. Every room they had heard a sound from corresponded to a tragic death in the motel's history. It was as if the rooms themselves had recorded the final, desperate moments of their last occupants. The couple now faced a terrifying truth. Their dream motel was haunted, not by ghosts in the traditional sense, but by echoes of real, human tragedy. Each room was a soundproof tomb, preserving the last moments of a life cut short. The smart home systems, designed to bring modern comfort, were instead acting as spectral amplifiers, playing back these recordings of death. They sat in the dimly lit office, the ledger open between them, the weight of their discovery pressing down. What could they do? How could they open a business where every room held such a dark secret? The joyful sounds of renovation had been replaced by the ghostly whispers of the past. Their dream was turning into a waking nightmare. Chloe, deeply shaken, wanted to sell. We can't stay here, Liam. We can't ask people to sleep in rooms where this happened. She couldn't bear the thought of guests unknowingly resting in a space that held so much pain. But Liam, ever the fighter, saw it differently. After the initial shock, a sense of responsibility began to settle in. He looked at the ledger, not as a list of horrors, but as a book of forgotten stories. These weren't just anonymous guests. They were people. People who had names, lives, and who had met their end, alone in one of these rooms. "We can't just abandon them," he said softly. Maybe we're here for a reason." Liam's idea was radical, and at first, Chloe thought he was crazy. He didn't want to erase the past. He wanted to honor it. He proposed they turn the Sunset Valley Motel into something entirely new. Not just a place to sleep, but a place of remembrance. They decided to research each person from the ledger. They spent weeks in the local library, poring over old newspapers and public records, piecing together the lives of those who had passed within the motel's walls. They learned about the elderly man in room 2, a war veteran and grandfather named Arthur. They discovered the story of the young woman in room 3, a budding artist named Sarah who had just had her heart broken. Each story they uncovered transformed the disembodied sounds into real, vibrant people. With this newfound purpose, they redesigned the entire motel. Each room was dedicated to the person who had passed away within it. Room 2 became Arthur's haven, decorated with memorabilia from his era and photos of his loving family, which they managed to track down. Room 3 became Sarah's studio, adorned with replicas of her artwork and filled with books on art and creativity. They didn't hide the history, they embraced it. Outside each door, a small, tasteful plaque told the story of the room's namesake, celebrating their life, not just their death. The smart speakers were reprogrammed, but not to erase the sounds. Instead, with the family's permissions, they now played the person's favorite music, or recordings of their grandchildren laughing, or poems they had loved. The Sunset Valley Motel finally had its grand reopening, but not as the retro chic getaway they first imagined. It opened as the Sunset Memorial Inn, a unique place of tribute and peace. News of their unconventional project spread. People weren't scared away. They were drawn in. Guests came not just for a bed, but for an experience. They came to stay in Arthur's haven and listen to his favorite big band music. They booked Sarah's studio to feel inspired by her creative spirit. Liam and Chloe would share the stories, turning a place of sorrow into a sanctuary of memory and celebration. The rooms were no longer filled with the echoes of death, but with the vibrant energy of lives. Liam and Chloe found a success they never could have imagined. Their inn was always full, booked by people seeking connection, peace, and a reminder of the beauty of life. They proved that confronting the darkness doesn't have to be terrifying. By choosing compassion over fear, they transformed a house of horrors into a haven of healing, not just for the spirits of the past, but for every guest who walked through their doors. They didn't just renovate a building, they redeemed it, giving each soul a final, peaceful resting place and a story that would never be forgotten. Thank you so much for watching. What started as a chilling story became one of hope and remembrance. It just goes to show that with empathy, we can find light in the darkest of places. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We'll see you in the next video.